Welcome back to Olfactofiles. I'm Tara, and today I have, as requested, a smaller haul. I wouldn't call it small. I have 10 new bottles to share with you. So not exactly small, but just smaller than what I have done in the past. These are all ones that I've purchased over about the last month and a half maybe. And I have some really good stuff here today. I'm really excited. I would say the majority of these I sampled before buying. I think actually only 2 were blind buys, and all the rest, so the other 8 were samples that I liked enough to purchase. All right, so we're gonna go in no particular order. First up, I have one from a house that I don't tend to really go for at all anymore, especially. This is from bond number 9, and it's called Dubai Indigo. So for the most part, I'm not really much of a fan of this house. If you watch my videos, or you have for a long time, you will know that I do like the scent of peace. That's just a really easy wearing fragrance, really nice for spring and summer, I think. But I did get several decants of different bond fragrances when, I think it was Fragrance Net, they kind of just put a bunch of their like travel spray decant things on clearance, and so they were fairly affordable. And this was one that I picked up, and as I was, trying it and wearing it, I really enjoyed it. And then I found a full bottle for a really good price. It was like slightly used, but like barely used at all. So I found it for a really good price, so I decided to go ahead and get it. So let me just spray this again real quick. Like I said, all these are fairly new to my collection, so some of them I've had a chance to wear a little bit, especially if I've sampled it, but others I've maybe only had a chance to wear once so far. So anyway, with Dubai Indigo, it smells really nice. This is a really fruity fragrance, which is not what I was expecting when I was thinking about the Dubai collection in general. I thought it was going to be, well, you see it's kind of like Middle Eastern themed in the packaging, and it says Dubai, but it doesn't smell like that at all. This is very fruity. I get like a lot of citrus in the opening. There's lychee in here. There are light touches of florals, like I think orange blossom, but then there's a lot of peach in here, which is another big like fruit note in here. I think maybe these are supposed to have oud in them. I don't know, maybe. But I do get like some sort of ambery qualities, and there's like definitely like sort of a clean style musk in here as well. This is actually a really good fragrance for summer. I just wouldn't go too heavy because it is fairly strong. And to me, you could probably overspray this and choke people out. I do think it can get a bit sweet and become perhaps a little bit cloying. But I think that it is a really delicious fruity fragrance. And it's mostly fruity. I definitely can pick up the peach, which is not a note that I often, I don't know, like it's very hit or miss for me with the peach note, but here I quite like it. I would definitely not recommend anybody pay full price for this. I think the regular retail price that they sell this on their website is like $550 for 100 milliliters. That's insane. I picked this up for maybe $150, and at that price, where it's closer to a designer price point, then I'm okay with it. But honestly, even much more than I paid, and I just would not be able to recommend this. It does last fairly well, at least when I've tried it a few times when I sampled it. But I do really enjoy this one, and it's rare for me to find a bond fragrance anymore that I really like, but now I have 2, this one and the Scent of Peace. Oh, and by the way, they don't say who the perfumers are, so I don't know who made this. Next up is the newest addition to my Carolina Herrera Confidentials collection, and this one is called Amber Desire, so you can probably guess this is going to be an amber fragrance. Although I will tell you, in general, the names can be a little misleading. For example, Mystery Tobacco is not the heaviest on tobacco in the collection, in my opinion, personally. And honestly, like also Nightfall Patchouli. Yeah, there's patchouli in it, but that's not really the star of the show. In fact, I think I might get more tobacco in that one. Anyway, so this is an amber fragrance. And again, I don't know who the perfumer is. I wish I did. I wish I could tell you. But unfortunately, that information has not been shared. So to me, yeah, I definitely get amber in this. I can get it right away. It's a little bit on the powdery side for an amber, but not super powdery. I also, though, get this like dried fruit note in here. like a dark dried fruit note. I think there's labdanum or something a little bit, I don't know, maybe something sort of resinous in here. And then I'm pretty sure that this is supposed to have rose in it. I don't know that I get a ton of rose from it personally. Maybe the tiniest touch, but honestly, if I didn't know that it's supposed to be there, I think I would have a hard time picking it up. Definitely has like some vanillic qualities, of course, because it is an amber, and usually ambers do have some vanillic aspects to them, be it from vanilla or benzoin or whatever it is. But yeah, overall, I would say slightly powdery amber. Dried fruit notes are fairly strong here. So it does go a little bit like a little bit sweet, not super sweet, but a little bit sweet and a little bit resinous. So as a whole, that's kind of the vibe that I get from it. To me, this is a more easy wearing amber than some can be. Like this is still strong, but it's not like beast mode, like overwhelmingly strong like some can get. And it's also not as powdery as some can go either. Like I said, it's a little powdery, but kind of nice and in the middle. I think that this would be an amber that a lot of people could go for, because I know some people hate powdery ambers. I know some people hate those like super strong beast mode ambers. And this is kind of just like a nice balance when I think about other amber fragrances that I've tried. So it's a good addition. Not my favorite in the collection, but I still really like it. Next up is a fragrance from one of my favorite indie houses. This is from Gallagher Fragrances. So the creator is Daniel Gallagher himself. And this one is called Behold Patchouli. This came out maybe a year ago now at this point. This was a really great release last year, in I think 2020 it came out from Daniel. And the reason why I decided to pick this one up now is because Daniel unfortunately is not going to be able to carry 30 ml sizes anymore. He just can't get the bottles in stock. And so I decided now's the time, especially because not only did he announce that he was going to stop carrying the 30 mils and only have the 100 mils, at least for a while, but also he had 15% off coupon code, and I was like, well, I'm getting it. I thought about getting some others as well, but I already have, so I would say that this is one of my favorites from the collection. I also have two of my other favorites, Wicked Good and Rosé All Day. But there are some other fragrances that I also enjoy. I think that the new release Overt, I think that's a nice fragrance for summer. Maybe a little bit more masculine, like it's like kind of a green fragrance, but a little bit more masculine than I would want personally. But it is definitely unisex, as are all his fragrances. There's just a few that he has, maybe 2 or 3 that he has that to me do lean a little bit more towards the masculine end of unisex than what I personally like to wear, but definitely not something that I would say is off-putting to anybody. So I think they truly are all unisex. Anyway, that was a tangent. Let's talk about the whole patchouli. So this one is this like orangey chocolatey patchouli. If you do not like the green dirty patchoulis, don't get too stressed about this one. Still definitely sample it, especially now because you'd have to buy 100 mils. But I definitely get a lot of orange and a lot of patchouli. What else does it say? There's frankincense, honeyed amber, musk. I would say I can get the light incensey thing. It's like kind of gives it a little bit of brightness to the fragrance in a way. That might sound weird, but it kind of does. And I can get the honeyed amber. The musks, I think, come out a little bit more in the dry down. But yeah, this is just a delicious orangey, chocolatey kind of patchouli. Does it have some green touches from the patchouli? Yes, of course it does. It's still patchouli, but definitely has a chocolate vibe. I really, really like this one. My friend Hillary from the Borough, she sent me a little decant from her bottle that she has, and that's how I was able to try it. So thank you, Hills. And I've liked it ever since and finally decided to get a bottle. All right, next up we have a designer fragrance. This comes from the house of Gucci, and it is called Gucci Guilty Absolu pour Femme. I know that the men's version of this one, I think a lot of people really like it, but it's also, I think, very much a fragrance that is kind of hit or miss for people. Like some people really hate it and some people love it. Like they think it's one of the best, like more recent designer releases. I can't remember exactly when this came out. It's been out for a little while now for sure. But this one is another fruity fragrance. Let me go ahead and spray this real quick. So the perfumer behind this fragrance is of course Alberto Marias, because he is the perfumer for Gucci. He does most, if not all of their stuff pretty much in the last, I don't know how many years, quite a while. Anyway, so Like I said, this is a fruity, rosy kind of fragrance. It's blackberry, rose. I think there's some woods and maybe the lightest touch of a green style patchouli, but it's really, really light. It mostly is about that blackberry rose combo, which I personally really, really like. Even though it is fruity, I wouldn't say that this goes too sweet at all. And in fact, even though it says it's pour femme, I think this is again another very unisex fragrance. In fact, I think I watched a video from Justin from, Stay Fresh Productions, and I'm pretty sure he mentioned one time that he tried to order the pour homme version, and they accidentally sent him this, and he tried it, and he was like, wow, this is actually really good. So I think he actually, as a man, tried it and enjoyed wearing it too. So anyway, I really like this. This is another one that I was able to sample ahead of time. I got a decant of it. I was actually kind of curious because I had heard some people say some nice things about it, and it sounded like it would be something I would enjoy with the woody rose and the blackberry. And I really do. This is another fairly strong performer, at least on me. It definitely projects, and I think it's pretty unique, and especially in terms of designer fragrances, I think it has something different to offer than most of what's out there. It's a little bit darker, a little bit deeper. And I think that also blackberry is not featured a ton in fragrances, so maybe that's why it stands out a bit more to me. Either way, I'm really enjoying this one, and I'm glad I finally have a bottle. Next up, I have a couple Guerlains that are new to my collection. So these are not in my Guerlain house overview video because I just didn't own them then. This one, actually, the first one up here is a blind buy, and it comes from the Art and Materials collection. This is called Rose Barbare or Barbare. And there you go. So remember, all these bottles look the same, so you have to check out the plate to see which one it is. This one had me curious, especially after Eugene from You Smells Good. I think he mentioned something about how this had the same sort of vanilla that like Spiritus Double Vanille, Tonka Imperial, Cuir Beluga, those kind of have in there. And I was like, oh, all right, I'm interested. I mean, I was interested anyway with the rose fragrance, but when like the idea of it being a rose fragrance with that same vanilla in it kind of popped in my head, I was like, I think I need to buy this. So anyway, like I said, it was a blind buy, and I like it. So this was created by Francis Kurkdjian, who has done several fragrances in this sort of style, I think, at this point, but I do get the aldehydes in here. This is a light, sort of crisp rose fragrance. I can see the vanilla aspect in here a little bit, but to me, it doesn't really stand out. To me, it's about rose, aldehyde, maybe some fruit, a little bit of sweetness. I'm not exactly sure what that's coming from. And perhaps a touch of patchouli again in this one, or some sort of like a woody kind of vibe to it. But I definitely get some light airiness of aldehydes, maybe even like sometimes, well, I think peach notes are created with aldehydes. Well, technically, I think a ton of notes are created with aldehydes anyway. It kind of has that sort of quality. So maybe that's the aldehydes that are both giving it this lift, like you would get maybe in like a Chanel No. 5, but at the same time, like a peachiness to it. But yeah, obviously the rose is the main player, but it's not a heavy rose at all. I also wouldn't call it a watery rose, so maybe a little bit powdery kind of rose, which that could be kind of what is reminiscent of the vanilla that is in some of these others from this collection, because they do have sometimes this powdery quality to them. I do really like this one quite a bit. I think Lizzie from Rose & Jones also has this one, and she's recommended it before. And so that was another reason, because I often like a lot of things she likes. Anyway, that's the newest addition from the Art and Materials collection to my personal collection. And then the other Guerlain that I picked up actually comes from their quote-unquote men's line, although again, completely unisex. In fact, I've been trying several Guerlain sort of men's marketed fragrances lately, and there's a few others I think I'm going to add to my collection that I really enjoy. But this one, as soon as I smelled it, I got a sample recently, and as soon as I smelled it, I was like, well, I need that. This is L'Homme Ideal Cologne. This is the discontinued one. I don't understand why this is discontinued. I have, over the last few months, sampled just about every version of L'Homme Ideal. There's like a hair on this. Anyway, I've tried pretty much all of them. There might be like one flanker, but only probably one at this point that I haven't tried of L'Homme Ideal, and this is the best one to me. It's the one I prefer anyway. So let me go ahead and spray this again. So like I said, it's discontinued, but you can still find bottles. Unfortunately, they're not as cheap as they once were. I do remember a few years ago, these were popping up at TJ Maxx's and Marshall's, but at the time I don't know, it didn't catch my attention. So I kind of just walked past it. And back then I probably could have got it for like 20, 30 bucks, but now I had to pay $60 for this 50 milliliter bottle, which isn't terrible. It's still less than I think it probably originally was, but the prices are kind of going up because it's discontinued. Anyway, so this was created by Thierry Vasseur, and this is just a great summer fragrance. It is light, it's refreshing. It has a little bit of like an almond quality to it with a bunch of fruits. However, when I say like almond, it's very light. It's not like how a lot of fragrances with almond go kind of sweet or powdery. It doesn't do that. It's very refreshing. I get like citruses. I think there's a touch of vetiver in here, maybe some like clean sort of musks as well. But yeah, it's sort of like this light, tiny touch of like an almondy sort of vibe with these beautiful bright citruses. It's the main thing that I get from this. So definitely something that I will be wearing a lot this summer and in future summers. But yeah, I just don't really understand why they would discontinue this, because it is my favorite version of L'Homme Ideal, at least that I've tried, and I've tried most of them. The next one is a fragrance that I've wanted for quite some time. And in fact, this house has several fragrances that I want. This comes from Les Indemodables, and it is called Musc de Sable. And this one is my second favorite from this house. Vanille Havane is my favorite. My third favorite is the, what's it called? It's the rose one. Rose de Jamal is my third favorite. And my fourth favorite is the Cuir de Chine. But all four of those I flipping love. So I do eventually want to add the rose, especially, like that's really high on my wish list, like one of the top positions, if not the top position currently. I really want to add that one and the Cuir de Chine, the leather one. They have some other ones that I liked as well, but those were the 4 out of the 10 that they have that I was like, I must own these. They're just fantastic. So anyway, all of these fragrances, I think, at least the 4 that I mentioned, I'm pretty sure were all created by Antoine Lee. I know this one was, and Vanille Havane was. So this one, it has this beautiful like orris, root, irisy sort of note in the opening. With, I mean, of course there's musk. Like I don't have to tell you that. It says Musc de Sable. But of course there's musk. There is also this sort of salty, slightly animalic ambergris note in it. I think in the opening, there might be a little bit of citrus, but it's a tiny bit. Like it doesn't really stand out. In fact, like I said, I think when I first spray it and I first get it on my skin, it's like kind of that orris, irisy sort of note that stands out to me the most in combination with the musk and the saltiness a little bit, which I really, really like. Again, I think in this one, there could be, I definitely get like some patchouli or something like that. But there could be something maybe a tiny bit spicy in here as well. Overall, I think this is a really sexy fragrance. I find it to be something that can be classy with the right attitude. Now, some people say this is like really sort of almost like a, what's the word I want to use? Like a trashy fragrance. Not like in a bad way. Like it's a great fragrance, but like it's like overtly sexy. And yes, it is sexy. This is a sexy fragrance. But to me, I think if you are very confident and you were to like dress in a way that is very classy and then wear this, I think it would come off as like incredibly sexy, but in a refined way. Personally, that's kind of the experience that I get from this. I really, really love it. Like I said, this is my second favorite from the line, but I love all 4 of the ones that I mentioned. Absolutely love them. They're fantastic fragrances. So you'll probably see more of Les Indemodables on my channel in the future. Next up is one from the house of Serge Lutens. I would assume that Christopher Sheldrake did this since it is from Serge Lutens, but I'm not 100% sure on that. This one is Santal Majuscule. Got a 50 ml bottle here. And I was able to sample this a long time ago. Gosh, it's probably been almost a year since I first tried this, thanks to Eve from Eve Spider Smells. She sent me some very generous decants of different fragrances in her collection, and this is one of them. Oh, it's so good. This is such a great sandalwood fragrance. I wish I would have had this when I did my sandalwood video, but I just hadn't come across a bottle at a price lately, because they've been kind of going up for these 50 ml style bottles. The prices of these have been going up, but I found a good price on it. And this is this beautiful, like sort of chocolatey or cocoa combination with the sandalwood. I would say this is more of a dry sandalwood. I don't get a ton of creaminess for it. I get like the cocoa powder. It's not powdery, but you know how it's like not super sweet, like that kind of cocoa. I get that in combination with this a little bit more dry sandalwood. And then there's a touch of floral in here too. I think it's rose that's in here, I think. But it's just a really unique combination. At least I personally, besides when I sampled this, I personally haven't encountered this particular combo of sort of like cocoa and sandalwood. I really enjoy it. It's different from the other sandalwood fragrances that I have, and it lasts pretty well. Again, it's a decent performer, at least on my skin. I don't find this to be as sexy as maybe some of my other sandalwood fragrances, perhaps because I think in general, find the creamy style of sandalwood to be perhaps a little bit sexier, but I still really, really like this. And I like that it kind of dabbles in the gourmand territory. So anyway, that one is called Santal Majuscule. Fantastic sandalwood fragrance from Serge Lutens if you happen to be able to find it for a decent price. All right, this should be no surprise that my Tom Ford collection has grown yet again. I feel like I should probably do like a ranking house overview sort of video for Tom Ford, just like I did for the Guerlain, because I have a lot. So the one that I've added most recently is Noir de Noir. Again, I picked this one up secondhand, but got like an amazing deal on it. This is a 100 ml bottle. And probably a lot of people are already familiar with this one. It is kind of your classic rose patchouli fragrance. I think it's probably one of the better ones that's available. This is really, really nice. So you definitely get a lot of rose and patchouli, like a lot of both of those in combination. This is a little bit more on the sort of slightly dirty green side of patchouli, at least to my nose. I definitely pick up the truffle like you get in Black Orchid. I detect like that same sort of accord that they've created there with the truffle note, quote unquote. I can pick that up here just as I pick it up in Black Orchid. So there is that commonality between the two. And if you like Black Orchid, then if you haven't tried Noir de Noir, you maybe should check it out, because you might really like this too. I think there's also a bit of saffron here. Definitely some florals, definitely a touch of vanilla in here as well. Perhaps some light like woodiness kind of thing going on, but in general, this is a very sexy rose patchouli fragrance. I think it's a good for date night, and I think this would be very sexy on a man as well. This is dead center, completely unisex. Like when I smell this, I can't picture it, you know, specifically on a woman or specifically on a man or anyone. It's just a nice, sexy fragrance that I think if you enjoy it, you're going to pull it off really well, because this is a strong, confident, sort of sensual style fragrance. So again, that's Noir de Noir. And this one was created by Harry Fremont, I think, and then Jacques Cavalier Bertrand, I believe, is who created this one. All right, and last up is my first fragrance from the Hermes Hermescence collection, and this one probably won't be a surprise to you if you know my style of fragrance. There are probably two that you'd be guessing I would pick from this line right away. And the one that I've started with is Ambre Narguile. And this is really difficult to sample in my area of the United States, at least. There are no Hermes boutiques anywhere close by, and this line is just not carried at the department stores. Even the higher end department stores here don't carry this. But I figured it was probably a safe bet given my taste and what people kind of said about this fragrance. And I was correct. This was a very safe blind buy. This one's from Jean-Claude Elena, of course, and This is really good. So again, if you've watched my videos at least a few times, you're probably aware that I'm a big fan of Kilian Angel Share. I think this smells very, very similar. This, of course, came first, but oh, it is so good. I love them both. And I'm totally fine with having multiple fragrances in this same sort of wheelhouse because this is a scent profile that I absolutely adore. So that said, this is, of course, an amber fragrance, but to me, the amber accord is not like of the same strength as it is in some of these other amber fragrances that I have or that I even talked about today. This is more about the honey, tobacco, and cinnamon kind of thing. It does have like a little bit of like a spicy caramel vanilla sort of thing going on. I think some people liken this to like an apple pie, like a cinnamon apple pie. And I can sort of get that. I don't really pick up apple per se. I would say as Ojan from Parfum de Marly maybe goes a little bit more even in that direction, which is another fragrance that's very similar. I have a decant of that. And then I also have a decant of Daniel Hossier's, is it Ambre Tabac? Why did I just say Ambre? Ambre Tabac, I think is what it's called. And I think I'm going to do a video comparing all four of them because all four of them smell fairly similar to me. So if you're interested, let me know and I can do that comparison video for sure. But my God, this is just absolutely delicious. Definitely cinnamon, definitely tobacco, definitely honey. Yeah, sure, amber's there, whatever. But that's not what this fragrance is about. I get that caramel, that vanilla, probably tonka in here because I do get a little bit of a powderiness to it. A little bit. Anyway, Ambre Narguile might be my favorite of the 10 that I picked up. That's a hard decision because there are several I really, really love. I also really love the Musc de Sable. Yeah, it's between one of these two, which one's my actual like favorite of these 10. But absolutely all of these are really great fragrances and I am not disappointed with any of them, even the ones that I did have to blind buy, which, you know, were only a few. But as a whole, great haul, great additions to my collection. So anyway, that is my small-ish, but not really that small, of a perfume haul. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you've tried any of these, and if so, what are your thoughts? Also, have you picked up any new fragrances lately? And if so, what are they? Let me know down below. Love to hear your comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and of course the notification bell so you can be notified of every time I post a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.